After you poop, do you find yourself seemingly needing to wipe and wipe and wipe and never feel clean? Well, if that's the case, then I have some answers for you. My name is Dr. Brooke Kalisiak, and I'm a pelvic physical therapist. And today I'm going to give you some of the most common reasons why people have that never-ending need to keep wiping and wiping after they have a bowel movement, and yet they still don't feel clean. If you are sick of wiping and never feeling clean, you are not alone. And there can be several reasons that are contributing to why this is happening. So today I'm going to dive into many of those reasons so you can better understand. One of the most overlooked reasons is just the health of your pelvic floor area. And so we're going to dive a little bit more in depth on what that means and how that can relate to your need to continue to wipe and wipe after a bowel movement and not feel clean. One common reason for excessive wiping is incomplete bowel evacuation. So this simply means that when you poop, not all the poop is coming out from the anal canal and some is getting stuck behind. There are several reasons that can lead up to incomplete evacuation, including our stress levels, dietary habits, dehydration, making our poop firmer and harder to push out. It can even be related to foods that we ate that day or that week that are changing up the consistency of the bowel movement. And so when we are not completely evacuating that poop and it's coming out in different forms, especially if it's really, really mushy and stuff's getting left behind, that can have that feeling that we need to wipe excessively to kind of feel clean. One of the overlooked factors that can contribute to the incomplete emptying is how your pelvic floor muscles are performing. So when we have a bowel movement, our pelvic floor muscles actually need to relax and let go to make sure that there's space for that bowel movement to come out. And unfortunately, some people actually can contract those pelvic floor muscles when they think they're actually relaxing them, and that can lead to kind of cutting off the bowel movement and leaving some behind instead of letting it fully evacuate. So how your pelvic floor muscles perform can play into whether or not you're having a complete bowel evacuation when you sit down to poop. So pelvic floor muscle dysfunction can be a main cause in us having to wipe excessively. So like I said a moment ago, our pelvic floor muscles are very important to us having good bowel habits. And so our pelvic floor muscles are anything that's in red in this area. And if we specifically look at the back side here, we have muscles that go right around that anus and provide closure. So these muscles help to keep the poop in when it's not time for us to have a bowel movement, but they also need to relax and let go when it is time to have a bowel movement. So if we're sitting on the toilet and our pelvic floor muscles are resting in a tight, tense position, aren't letting go, we're going to have a lot of trouble being able to fully evacuate the bowel movement. Or on the flip side, these muscles might be really, really weak and stretched out or worn out over the years, and they're not doing their job as well. And so after we have the bowel movement and they relax and let the poop come out, they're supposed to kind of recoil back into a closed position. And specifically, this muscle, the external anal sphincter muscle that makes a circle around the anus, if that muscle has damage to it, say from years ago from childbirth, or other injuries to the area, and that muscle isn't performing as well as it should be, it's not as strong as it should be, or there's scar tissue or a defect in that muscle, then that sphincter action, that closure action might not be able to happen as easily. And because of that, that can mean that any kind of poop that's left behind in the anal canal, that door's not fully closed. The sphincter doesn't close all the way down, and we end up feeling like we just keep wiping and wiping because the door's still open. And so when or if you're dealing with that feeling of excessive wiping and not feeling clean, there's a good chance that your pelvic floor muscles might have some dysfunction to them, but we need to get them evaluated to figure out, is that dysfunction that they're too tense and tight and not relaxing the way they should be, or are they too weak and loose? Because a wide variety of things can be contributing to why you're feeling that symptom. Another reason why excessive wiping may happen is the existence of anal fissures or hemorrhoids. So an anal fissure is when there's actually some tearing in the anus here, and it can be right at the opening or it can be a little deeper in. But and a hemorrhoid is when we've got one of the blood vessels down around the area that kind of gets filled up and can put pressure in the area. And those hemorrhoids, again, can be more superficial on the outside or they can be deeper inside. But both a fissure and a hemorrhoid, because there's kind of this excess in the area, it can lead to fecal matter kind of getting stuck around that area and not feeling like it evacuates all the way, and again, leading to us needing to wipe. Anal fissures and hemorrhoids also can make that tissue in the area more irritated and sensitive, and that can, again, make it feel like you need to wipe in the area to get clean, but unfortunately that can also make the tissue feel really raw and irritated. And if I can link that back to my previous discussion on pelvic floor dysfunction, if your pelvic floor muscles aren't working the way that they should be, that can contribute to you having these anal fissures and hemorrhoids. So many people have gone and gotten treatment for the fissures and the hemorrhoids and see some resolution of their symptoms, but not complete. And that can be because they've never gotten assessed to see what their pelvic floor muscles are doing, and that can still be contributing to the issue even once the fissure or the hemorrhoid is gone. The fourth thing that can contribute to excessive wiping is what we're consuming in our diet. So unfortunately, many people's diets are very low in fiber and high in highly processed foods. And this can lead to a softer stool consistency that we really want it to come out in kind of like soft serve ice cream, soft formed log situation. But if it's coming out as extremely soft, this is going to feel like there's more of a mess there and that you're not able to fully get clean with the wiping. And so what you eat really highly affects your bowel movements. And so it's important to consider making dietary changes like increasing your fiber intake and making sure that you're not getting dehydrated. So especially if you are going to increase your fiber, you do want to make sure that you're taking in enough water, because what happens is that the fiber ends up absorbing the water fluid, and that helps to fluff up the poop and turn it into that soft log situation. So I never recommend increasing fiber without increasing your water intake as well. So if you've tried some of these other things that we've talked about and you're still having issues, it may be very important to look at your diet and what changes need to happen with that. And that can be very helpful to partner with like a nutritionist or a dietitian to make sure that you're getting appropriate amounts of fiber and fluids into your diet to make sure that your stool consistency is that nice soft log. Hopefully by now you've seen that the pelvic floor muscles themselves can be a huge player in what's affecting your ability to wipe and feel like you get clean in this area. And so because the pelvic floor can play such a big role in it, it is very important to think about partnering with a pelvic physical therapist, because we are the experts in assessing what is going on with your pelvic floor muscles and are everything working appropriately. So we would be able to assess if your muscles are too tight and tense, or they're too loose and weak, or if there's scar tissue in the area that's limiting how that external anal sphincter can do its job. We can even start to look at kind of what your diet's like and what your bowel consistency is to make sure that you are taking in adequate amounts of fiber and fluids. So partnering with a pelvic physical therapist can be a great way to help you make sure that you are avoiding this excessive wiping and feeling like you can get clean. What the treatment plan may look like depends on what we find at the evaluation. We might be having to work on teaching you how to push and positioning it on the toilet to make sure that you can evacuate those bowel movements well. Oftentimes we call it adult potty training, because a lot of times people haven't learned how to poop well. And so I have another video on that. So when you get a chance, it's tagged right up here. I want you to go watch that video on proper pooping position so that you can kind of benefit from that. But yeah, we can work on positioning. We can work on how you create the push. If we need to, we can work on strengthening the pelvic floor muscles or figuring out what's going on with the scar tissue. and getting that moving well. But ultimately, we kind of assess everything in that pelvic area to make sure that you are having a good bowel evacuation and are able to wipe yourself clean completely and not feeling like you have to do it excessively. Dealing with the frustration of endless wiping can be exhausting, but understanding the potential causes is a powerful first step. We've learned that the pelvic floor plays a huge component in whether or not we can feel completely clean when we wipe after a bowel movement. And hopefully you've learned that partnering with a pelvic physical therapist can help you to have good, normal bowel movement and be able to feel clean after you wipe. So if you are experiencing issues like this, I hope you can seek out pelvic physical therapy to help you conquer this need for excessive wiping. Thank you for watching our video. We hope you found it informative. We put out weekly content on pelvic health topics because we want people to be able to optimize their pelvic health throughout their lifetime. Make sure you like and subscribe our channel so that you're alerted when our next video becomes available.